Good morning, everyone. It is 10:30 a.m. We will go ahead and get started. Well, thank you for joining us as we discuss some of the recent changes to Matrix that occurred overnight on Monday. So yesterday when you logged into Matrix, you likely noticed a few minor things that might look different. Hopefully none of these changes should be very disruptive to your business, but instead these have solved problems that have been brought to our attention for quite a while and will hopefully create some positive impacts for you. So what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through some of these changes. You've probably read some of the correspondence, the emails that went out, the Matrix news items, but we're going to go over some of the behind the scenes stuff of how these changes could in fact help you and help your business and help you better serve your customers. So we'll give you some scenarios, we'll give you some ideas of how you can leverage these. So one of the first things that might look different, and just to, oh, by the way, before we get started, just to talk to you about a few other items. Hopefully, most of you can hear me by now. If not, you can add your audio through the Communicate tab. For those watching who can't hear, if you go to the Communicate tab, you're able to connect to audio, and we have a call-in number as well, which is an option. So, some of the major changes that occurred. We have some new queries, we have a few new fields, and some new behaviors for fields that might or might not be required. We have a new interface for those sold data for entry only listings, which we'll discuss. We've made it easier for you to meet some of the required disclosures that the MLS rules and regulations require. We are now having a few items that will be system populated in the public remarks, and just a few other minor changes. So we're going to walk through all of these one by one, and once again, we'll give you some examples of how you might use these. But let me let me start at the beginning. So one of the first changes that occurred was the addition of two new queries about your listings. So when you are in Matrix, when you go into the Matrix system, there are several places where you can view your current listings, your listings that might be under contract, and also your sold listings. First of all, you have this My Listings widget right here on your homepage where I have very quick access to my active, pending, incomplete, expiring listings for both myself and for my office. But you can run more extensive queries under the My Matrix tab. My Matrix, My Listings. Remember that under the My Matrix tab, this is where you can find information on anything that is tied to you in Matrix. Your contacts, your auto emails, your searches, your settings, your branding information, your CMAs. So the My Matrix tab is pretty much your settings tab. This is where all of your items are stored. But My Matrix, My Listings, there are a variety of queries from this pull-down menu. And recently, you were able to run queries for your sold listings from the past 6 months and your sold listings from the past 2 years, but nothing in between. So there have been new queries added for your listings year to date and your listings from the past 12 months. In terms of your sold listings year to date, this will quickly show you all of the listings for which you are either the listing agent or a cooperating agent for the past year starting on January 1st of this year. So however many days we are in the year, if it's January 2nd, it will be all the listings from the previous day. If it's today, December 12th, it'll be all the listings between January 1st and today. But this will be for your sold listings since January 1st of this year. There's another query for your sold listings from the past 12 months, and this is going back one calendar year from the current date. So if you were to run this query today, this will be everything that you have sold for which you are either the listing agent or a cooperating agent since December 12th, 2017, 1 year ago from today. So pretty straightforward changes, just two new queries. Once again, My Matrix, My Listings, and you can then run the queries either the past 12 months or year to date. So the second change, this is going to be a little more extensive. We have a new field called total bathrooms. So this field has always existed, or not always existed, but it's existed for the past several years as an addable field. If you scroll to the bottom of your search form, you were able to add the total bathrooms field into your search form and use this. So what is the purpose of this form? How does it benefit you? And why do we decide to add this form to the form? Why is this field always in the form now? Well, a lot of times there is a big market for homes. Usually, and this could be any number of bedrooms, but especially homes that are in that 3 to 4 bedroom range, where the buyer asks you for at least 2.5 bathrooms. Maybe they need a 3 bedroom home, maybe they need a 4 bedroom home, but they need at least 2.5 bathrooms. Now, I'm just giving hypotheticals with numbers. It could be actually any number, any combination of bedrooms and bathrooms. But in a case like this, where the buyer is looking for a combination, either 2.5 bathrooms or maybe 3 full bathrooms, it was somewhat challenging to use the fields that were formerly in your search form. Let's take a look why. So when I run a search and I say that I'm looking for, let's just say, a single family residence in, I'm going to say, Palm Harbor, Florida, I need 3 or more bedrooms, 3+, and I need at least 2.5 bathrooms. At least. I'll be just as happy with 3 full bathrooms instead of 2 full bathrooms and 1/2 bathroom, but I need at least 2.5 bathrooms. I was somewhat limited when I used the full baths and half bath fields. Because if I said 2+ under full bathrooms, well, this included listings that just had 2 full bathrooms, no half bathrooms. Here's some, a 3 bedroom home with 2 full bathrooms with 0 half baths. If I said 2+ full bathrooms and 1+ half bathroom, now I am limited to only those listings that had at least 1/2 bathroom. But what if there was a home with 3 full bathrooms and 0 half bathrooms? That would have still met my buyer's need. So now, with this total bathrooms field, you can indicate the combined full and half bathrooms that you are looking for. If you were to go to the help bubble, we tell you how to use this field. The key number is this is a total number, a whole number of combined full and half bathrooms. So for example, 2 full bathrooms and 1/2 bathroom would equal 3 total bathrooms. 3 full bathrooms and 0 half bathrooms would still equal 3 total bathrooms. So when I do this, 3+ total bedrooms and 3+ total bathrooms, this gives me any combination. 3 full bathrooms, 0 half bathrooms, 2 full bathrooms and 1/2 bath. But in all of these cases, the total number of bathrooms is at least 3. Now, you might be asking, well, what about a scenario where there's only 1 full bathroom and 2 half bathrooms? Would that still show up if I put in 3+ total bathrooms? And in this case, yes. If I say 3+ total bathrooms, this is any combination of full and half bathrooms. But out of that, if I am only looking for homes with 2 full bathrooms, at least 2 full bathrooms and 3 total bathrooms, I can always say 2+ under the full bathrooms field, and that would eliminate anything with less than 2 full bathrooms. So that is the new total bathrooms field. It can be a little confusing, a little challenging in that it is the whole number, the combined full and half bathrooms. But what is nice about this, addition, is when you do have those buyers who want at least, I'm just going to throw out the number, 2.5 total bathrooms, you can now run that search and set it up in an auto email with very little work. You no longer have to add this field to the search form. So that's a big change, and that's a change that really has been requested for several years. So now let's take a look at some of the other changes. Oh, and by the way, I still see a few questions coming through the chat panel. Please make sure you only submit your questions through the Q&A panel. The chat panel is not being monitored during this webinar. So there have been a few new required fields, or a few new fields have been added, and some new requirements for those fields. So now, for when you are listing properties in either an HOA or a condo association, you mark the HOA/community association field as yes, and you say the HOA fee requirement is required. First of all, you are now going to have to give the name of either the association or the management company's contact. This is a very heavily requested item. We oftentimes have buyers who need to get their hands on association documents or ask questions about assessments or whatever it might be, and the buyer's agent needs a contact from that association. So now whenever the HOA or the condo fee is required, the association contact is now going to be required as well. Now, we used to only give you a place to give the contact's phone number, but we have recently added in fields for the association email and the association website. The reason for that, especially for those volunteer run associations, oftentimes phone is not the best way to reach the person. Email is better. For condominiums in Florida, there will be a new law effective on January 1st, where any condo association with more than 150 units will have to have a website. Now you have a mechanism to share those websites, and those websites will actually have to have several documents. So when you do say that an association is required and a fee is required, you have to give the contact name. You have to give at least one piece of contact information, either the phone, the email, or the website. In an ideal world, you can give all three. That way you give the buyer's agent options of how to reach out to the association or get the information they need, but you need to at least include one, the email, phone, or the website. Now, what might be a little confusing, if you do not enter a piece of information here, when you go to submit the listing or when you go to validate the listing, you will get that error message that you're missing a field. The error is going to be under the contact name. Because only one of these fields is required, not all three, the error is going to show up under the contact name. If you click the error, it's going to tell you, please give at least one piece of contact information. Let's see, another change. On the broker full and on the customer full reports. So when you view a listing in Matrix and when you go to the full report displays, are now fields that are system calculated for total monthly fees and total annual fees. Because when you enter fees for a listing, there could be a combination of HOA fees, condo fees, and other fees. Maybe one property is in a condo complex that's within an HOA, that's within a master HOA, and there's both HOA and condo fees. And maybe the condo fees are paid quarterly, the HOA fees are paid monthly. It can be very hard to do an apples to apples comparison between listings and what the monthly fees will be. So now these total monthly and total annual fee fields will calculate the combination of the combination of HOA, condo, and other fees, and would put everything in terms of average monthly fees. So for example, an HOA that charges $300 a quarter, $300 a quarter averages out to $100 a month. So this way you can have a better comparison of the true picture of what fees will be without having to do all that math in your head. And once again, these new system calculated fields are only available on the customer full and the broker full reports. Now, because we added in some new required fields, you are now required to let us know about the association contact information. There's some other required fields I can talk about later. We also took away a requirement for you. So when you're entering a listing and you indicate that the floors in the unit or home is only one, is a single level home or unit, you are no longer required to give the room level for each room that you enter. What if you're entering a single family home and there are 10 different rooms that you're trying to enter? All the bedrooms, all the bathrooms, the kitchen, living room, great room, office, and they're all on the first level. It's a one-story home. Now this is going to be an optional field for those one-story homes. Now, if you do not indicate how many floors are in the unit or home, or if you check anything but one, then this field is going to still be required. So another very minor change on the listing distribution section of your listing. This is where you talk about all your sellers' preferences for internet marketing, as also where you can determine to which sites your listing is distributed. There used to be a label called State 27 Homes, which is for the MLS's consumer website. That label has changed to just say consumer site. The reason is we are now the MLS that serves Puerto Rico and the Puerto Rico Association of Realtors, and they have a different consumer site. So this way, regardless of if you're an agent in Puerto Rico or in Florida, you can choose whether or not you want your listing distributed to that state's site. Now, I want to talk to you a little more about these listing distribution fields, just because there is some confusion here, even amongst some veteran agents. Most of the items here, most of the items on this side of your form, come directly from the Florida Realtors Listing Agreement, the Broker Authority section. This is where your seller can opt out of their listing going on the internet, whether or not they want the address displayed, if they want to participate in comment feeds or in automated valuation models, on internet data exchanges, on other brokers' websites. All these fields come directly from your listing agreement if you use the Florida Realtors Listing Agreement. However, the distribute to fields, these are things for you to discuss with your seller. On which websites do you want this listing to show up? Homes.com, HomeSnap, Realtor.com, the MLS's consumer website, and the Zillow group sites. Now, brokers have ultimate authority to opt out of a site for their office. So if your broker opts out of sending listings to Zillow or opts out of sending listings to HomeSnap, then regardless of what you check off here, the opt-out would trump the opt-in. Your listing would not be able to go to that site because your broker said that they will not send listings from your brokerage to the site. However, if your broker opts in, if your broker does send listings to Zillow from the office, and you uncheck the Zillow box or you uncheck the HomeSnap or Realtor.com box, then your opt-out would trump the office's opt-in. Your listing will not go to whichever site you deselect. So that's just a little clarification on how these fields work. But the only thing that has really changed is the label from State 27 Homes. It now says consumer site. Let's see a few other fields that have changed in the commercial entry and on commercial searches. Under the business type field, there used to be a value for combined office/warehouse that has been broken down to professional/office and warehouse. We just separated out those values. Under the green water features field, this is the field that talks about any type of water conservation features. It's under the green tab when you enter a listing. There used to be an option called gray water system that has been renamed to water recycling, but the gray water system option has been moved to the exterior features field. So once again, this option is still there for you to share about your listing, for you to search for. It's just in a different location. Same thing, skylights has moved from window features to interior features. We kept the value, we just changed the field. Now, a lot of times when you see that we make these changes and look up values and where these are located, these are to make sure that we are compliant with national real estate data standards. When different brokerages have interfaces where you can search for listings on a website, when there's these different consumer sites that you might be sending your listings to, it's just to ensure consistency in real estate data across the nation. So that's why a lot of these changes occur. One last change that I do not have on the slides, but there is a field in the MLS for front exposure. And this field is asking you, what direction does the front door of the property face? Does it face north, south, east, west, southeast? And this has been a very important field for a lot of buyers for cultural reasons, for also for energy efficiency. The direction the front door faces could impact, you know, if the backyard gets direct sun in the afternoon, things like that. So this has become increasingly important. That is now a required field. If you need assistance finding which direction the front door faces, well, there's a few mechanisms you can use. You can pull the property up on an electronic map. You can usually tell that way, looking at an aerial shot. But also, if you use the Compass app on your phone, iPhones all have a Compass app built into it. I believe Androids do as well. But if you stand with your back facing towards the front door, face out, point your phone out with the compass out, that is a good way to see which direction the front door faces. So, one of the other major changes is with sold data for entry only listings. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this listing type, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about what has changed to hopefully make your job and make your life a lot easier. So oftentimes we have agents who represent a buyer. They take a buyer to a home or a property, any type of property, that was not listed in the MLS. Maybe you're a commercial agent or you do commercial transactions in addition to residential transactions, and you found a commercial listing through one of your other sources and you took a buyer, but you want credit in the MLS on the MLS reports. Maybe you're working in residential properties and you took a buyer to a for sale by owner. You took a buyer to a new construction, not in the MLS, being marketed directly by the builder. Or you live on the border of MFR's coverage area. You live in Pasco County. You took a buyer to a home that was listed in the Hernando County MLS. Or you live in West Volusia County and you took a buyer to a home in Daytona Beach, not in this MLS. Or another scenario, maybe you took a buyer to a home where the seller waived the home from being entered in the MLS. But you still worked with the listing agent through networking and you were able to bring a buyer. Well, it can be very important for various reasons that you get credit for that transaction. In the MLS, there are market reports that your broker can run. Your broker can run a report to check out the transaction volume for each agent in the office and who has the top volume in the office. Many times boards run reports to see who the top brokerages are. A lot of brokers use transaction volume in a certain area in their advertising, use it for bragging rights or for other reasons. If you apply for certain certifications or awards, you need to document a certain amount of sales volume in the MLS. So if you ever take a buyer to a listing outside the MLS, it is important that you still enter the data as a sold data for entry only listing. That way you still get credit for it. But in the past, this was challenging. Number one, you were still required to fill out all fields for that listing, all required fields. And there were certain things where if you represented the buyer, you might just not have known. For example, would you have known what type of listing the listing agent had with a seller when you represented the buyer? Would you have known what the showing instructions were for the property or what the compensation offers were for each type of agency? So that was one challenge, just the vast amount of required fields. The other challenge was the fact that you had to submit the listing as active first. You had to first activate the listing. It wasn't yours. You took the buyer. It already sold. And then you had to automatically change it to sold. And that could have created some confusion with it going out on auto emails and several other things. So that was an issue. And finally, you were not able to indicate who the listing agent was because the listing agent might have not been an MFR agent. It could have been a builder, a for sale. There could have been no listing agent if it was for sale by owner. It could have been a listing agent from another MLS. So you had to enter yourself as both the listing agent and selling agent and then contact us to change this. So these were a lot of additional steps. It was making this a little more cumbersome for you to enter these listings, which are very beneficial to you. So this was something that we've been talking about, and we want to find a way to make it easier for you. So now there are separate entry forms when you go to enter a listing for those SDEO listings, for those sold data for entry only listings. When you use these new SDEO forms, first of all, the amount of required fields has been reduced. You are no longer required to give information that you might not have as the buyer's agent. Number two, while you still have to submit the listing as incomplete first to add your photo, these listings require at least one photo. You no longer have to submit as active. You can now just close out the listing right away. When you finish entering it, when you enter your photo, you can automatically report it as sold. And number three, the listing agent is automatically going to be entered as out of MFR area. You no longer have to enter yourself as the listing agent and then call to have this changed. The listing agent will now automatically be out of MFR area. So hopefully that will save you some time. Hopefully this will make it easier for you to give this data. I strongly do encourage you to enter these sold data for entry-only listings whenever you take a buyer to a property that was not in the MLS. Not only for you to receive credit for that listing, but also for all of us to have access to that comparable data for when people in that area are doing CMAs or anything else, or just trying to look up information about that market and market statistics, to have that full set of information. We all win. One more thing about SDEO, when you run statistics in Matrix, I'm sorry, I think I skipped that. I skipped that slide. But when you run statistics in Matrix, you now have the ability to determine, do you want to include the sold data only listings or only those full MLS listings? The default is going to be only the MLS listings, but when you run statistics under the stats tab in Matrix, you can add in the sold data only. And one more reminder about these SDEO listings, they are required to be entered within 30 days of closing. After 30 days, we are no longer able to get these entered into the system. Okay, so one more big change to talk to you about, and then we're going to talk to you about some other smaller changes. So for many types of listings, if you use virtual staging, if you select short sale under the special sales provision, if you select pre-construction or under construction under the property condition, or if you indicate that the property is a fractional ownership. The MFRMLS rules and regulations require several disclosures. So for example, short sales have to have the words short sale as the first two words of public remarks. Same thing with pre-construction and under construction. Fractional ownerships must specify fractional ownership in the public remarks. So to make things a little easier for you, but also to ensure the integrity of MLS data, now whenever you check off those items when entering your listing, the MLS public remarks automatically populate with that required verbiage. But there are a few nuances to this, which I do want to review with you. So I'm going to go enter a listing. I'm just going to start with a blank listing. And we're just going to jump straight to the public remarks field. Let me first just say this is a matrix test listing. But I'm going to jump straight to the public remarks field. And I'm just going to type in, this is a test. Nothing else. But I'm going to check off the box that I have at least one photo that's virtually staged. I'm going to go to the listing tab. I'm going to mark this listing as a short sale. I'm going to go to the pool exterior tab and to the field called property condition and say this listing is under construction. And finally, I'm going to go to the owner tab and indicate that this is a fractional ownership. So I checked off all of these triggers that are supposed to auto-populate my public remarks. It's supposed to say short sale, under construction, fractional ownership, at least one photo has been virtually staged. So all these statements are supposed to show up in the public remarks, but they're hidden. I can't see them. All I can see is what I typed in, this is a test. Any of these new triggers for short sales, pre or under construction, fractional ownerships, and virtual staging, it is a hidden layer. So that layer is hidden and does not count towards your required, towards the number of characters you're able to have in your public remarks. Then I type in this is a test. I'm now going to save this listing as incomplete. And let's see what this looks like. So when I go into the listing, I go into public remarks. Oh, look at this. One or more photos has been virtually staged. Short sale, under construction, fractional ownership. This is a test. So the listing is now going to be combined, those auto triggers plus whatever I typed in. So it can be a little confusing. So when you type in that information, when you choose those triggers, it does not automatically appear in your public remarks. But when you submit the listing, it then appears in your public remarks. One final reminder about this and one final disclaimer. The public remarks disclosures are not necessarily the only thing you have to disclose. So, for example, with pre and under construction, there are also statements you have to put in the realtor remarks. There are certain rules about photos. For short sales, there might be some things you have to indicate in the realtor remarks. For fractional ownerships, you do have to indicate the fraction that is being conveyed. So always check the MLS rules and regulations whenever you have one of these not as common listing types. Please be sure to check the full rules for the full set of disclosures that you have to make. So that's another big change. And the final two things I want to share with you. First of all, there's going to be some system purges taking place for both saved searches and for CMAs. Uh, for various reasons, now, whenever you have a CMA that has not been modified for 365 days, if you do not go in to modify it and to change the last date you're in there, the system will automatically purge that CMA after 365 days. So that's one change. So if you have a CMA in Matrix, and remember, if you go to the My Matrix tab, My Matrix, My CMAs, here are all of your CMAs. Just check the last modified date. Anything that is more than 365 days will be automatically purged from the system. Same thing under the My Matrix tab for your saved searches. Saved searches that have not been modified for at least 365 days or have not been run for 365 days will be purged from the system. There are a few exceptions to that though. If the saved search is linked to a contact, if the saved search is set to appear on your Matrix homepage, if it is a hot sheet, or if it is part of an auto email, then it will not be purged from the system. But if none of these things are true and it has not been touched for 365 days, then it would be deleted. We've had some cases where people have had 10,000, 12,000 searches that have not been touched for 5, 6 years. It impacts the functionality of the system. So this is just going to be a new change just to make sure that we are cleaning these out. But if you ever need to keep something, simply go in and modify it. And that will change the last date modified and will push back your 365-day deadline. Okay, so those are the recent changes. I hope that you do enjoy these changes and that they do help you with your business. Thank you all so much for joining us.